On January 19, I called into a libertarian radio show out of New Hampshire called Free Talk Live. It's on in more than 60 markets, so it has a wide audience. We discussed an important issue, and I think it went very well, so I wanted to share that with y'all. Here's the clip from the show.
800-259-9231. You can bring up anything. Let's try Michael in South Carolina. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Michael.
Hey, how's it going?
What's on your mind tonight, Michael?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to disagree with y'all a little bit.
Okay.
I listen to the show a lot and agree with probably 99% of what y'all say, but and I agree that involuntary government is illegitimate, but y'all seem to jump from that to the concept that nations don't really exist.
What's a nation?
Well, a nation would be a group of people who share a common culture, a common way of life.
So
I would agree that nations exist in the same way that religions and gangs and sports teams exist.
Let's talk a little more in detail about this, if you don't mind. Hang on. We'll bring you back for that at 800-259-9231. That's the SACL CAI toll-free line. You can bring up anything. 1-800-259-9231. Take control of the airwaves. This is Free Talk Live. Let's continue here with your phone calls and go back to Michael in South Carolina. Now, Michael, you brought up the issue of the whether or not this is a nation, whether or not there is a nation, and of course it is my belief that there is no such thing as a nation, but we were getting into the definition of it. Can you redefine for me what you think a nation is?
Well, I'd say it's a group of people who share a common culture, a common way of life. And I'm not arguing that the United States is a nation. It's definitely not. It's a multinational empire. But I'm just saying that.
So give me an example of a nation then.
I would say that the Japanese people are a nation.
Well, the Japanese,
not Japan, but the Japanese people.
Okay, I was about ready to lay in, because there are minorities that are in the Japanese nation. It's my understanding that Okinawa, that there's some sort of minority there that they understand the difference of, that I simply do not. They all seem Japanese to me, but that they understand the difference of, and that those people are somehow looked down upon or something like that. So I think that if you're talking about an ethnicity of people, that you've got some stance there. Here in the United States, I don't think that you can make much of an argument that the ethnicities are the same, across the board.
It's common language for the most part. If you're talking about the dominant culture,
it's common language in a lot of nations. I mean, a lot of
countries.
So you've got a common
language in the U.S., but different dialects.
That's true.
Cultures.
There's different cultures in Japan. I mean, there are all kinds of different people into a variety of different.
Sure, I can understand the idea here, though. I mean, I would say I definitely do, from a personal standpoint, I definitely would identify with somebody else from New Hampshire or Vermont more than I would with somebody from Alabama. I do think that,
absolutely. And that's what
but
I'm
even
saying.
if the only even if the only thing you have in common is that you were both born on the same plot of land, the same arbitrary plot of land.
It's not about a plot of land, though, Ian. It's what kind of sports do you play? What do you do in your free time? How do you say certain words? I think what.
But if somebody plays different sports from you,
we're not talking about a nation state. We're talking about a common culture.
And
right,
I'm saying,
what
I'm asking you is, if you have a differing culture in that you might have been born in the same geographic region, but you have differing interests and beliefs and things like that, that means you're in the same nation? Or no, you have to have the exact.
Sure. I mean,
I would say that society is based on the root of it is family and culture, and these are voluntary. They're legitimate, and I'm not arguing that involuntary government is legitimate, but that these things are real. And you might be born in in an area, and there might be someone different. You might be slightly different than your neighbor, or very different. In general, you share many things in common with the people in your same culture.
I mean, there might be Canadians who don't like hockey, but hockey is still sort of a shared thing. If you're a Canadian or you live in more or less the northern United States. There are certain
so it's only the majority that
defines.
It's only the majority that defines what a nation or a culture is.
No, I'm not arguing that.
You can't have different cultures in one area?
I'm not talking about majorities or numbers or any sort of counting or numbers or anything like that at all. I'm just saying that cultures and nations are real. I lived in Spain.
I think cultures are real, absolutely. I agree with that.
Well, and from that you get the concept of the nation. It's really just an extension of the family. I can tell you, I lived overseas abroad in Spain for about 4 years, and I definitely wasn't a member of that nation. I liked it, and I tried to adapt, but that wasn't my nation of people,
I don't know what you're saying. In fact, according to the dictionary, a nation is a large body of people associated with a particular territory, which is, of course, arbitrarily selected by somebody in the past, that is sufficiently conscious, this is where it gets really nebulous, that is sufficiently conscious of its unity to seek or to possess a government peculiarly of its own.
That's generally how it's defined. I mean, the Québécois in Canada, they will call themselves a nation, but generally they would see that as extending to other French-speaking people and say New Brunswick. It's not so much about...
So it's not about territory,
well, there's a territorial aspect to it because they all kind of live centered around one geographic location.
It's like the Kurds. They live both in Turkey and in Iraq.
But it's Kurdistan.
Right.
So if what you want to say is you belong to the nation of the Red Sox fans, that's fine, as long as it's a voluntary association. Huh?
Well, it is voluntary, and it is voluntary. I mean, you can leave, you can disassociate, but it's not just simply a sports team.
But do you get what I'm saying, where you have the same interests to where you could all, as it's saying here, be conscious of its unity to seek or possess a government peculiarly its own?
Yeah, that's the part of the definition that I would disagree with. Like in old times, you had nations, and they moved around the world, and they had voluntary self-government. In other words, you could leave and start your own tribe. You could join another tribe. You could do whatever. The tribe was always on the move anyhow. It wasn't an involuntary government. It was just really a big family of people.
Well, that's a more accurate definition. If you're just talking about a big family, then definition 4 says an aggregation of persons in the same ethnic family, often speaking the same language or cognate languages. So that would be an accurate definition.
You're also looking at the fact
kind of definition I like.
When we hear government today, we're thinking about a nation state.
And when people use the term nation, they're talking about everyone that is within an arbitrary drawn border.
People who have the same language and a shared culture tend to form political units together. But if you're looking at government in terms of customs and folkways, then certainly I think that there are some things that are acceptable to do in Thailand that are not acceptable to do here, whether you have a government around to say that or not. There are differences in the way that somebody in part of the United States would carry out their life and the way that somebody in some Asian country would, because there are social differences there.
Michael, any final thoughts for us?
Well, no, I just brought it up because you've been a little bit critical, I think, of the idea that nations exist in the past, so I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I was talking about nation states. If you want to talk about a family of people that is spread out across some, where, that's fine.
Good job, Michael.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate hearing from you at 800-259-9231. When I was talking about nations, I was talking about them in the way that they're commonly referred to, in that people talk about the United States as a nation. The United States is a government. The plot of land called America is just a plot of land, and there are a variety of different families and ethnic groups and people with different cultures within it. So there's no nation of the United States. And I'll stand by that one. More coming up, 800-259-9231. You can bring up anything. Dial in now for the Total Sack.